What is going on, big ballers? Manny's on vacation today, so I'm rolling solo, so you're going to get to hear all my opinions with no pushback. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Hey there, my name is Manny James Gonzalez with PRB, and I'm a real estate agent here in Central Florida. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, military relocation pro, and big supporter of 2A and veterans' rights. My specialty is VA transactions. I'm also experienced in all parts of real estate.
I've been living in Florida for over 20 years, and I can tell you we still believe in freedom down here. One of the greatest job markets, excellent economy, and no state income tax. When it comes to an agent, you want one that's going to be honest, not afraid of a fight, and most importantly, willing to do the things that some agents aren't willing to do.
And what's that, Manny?
Shoot straight, Dan. If you're ever considering buying in Central Florida, you need somebody you can trust, and I got your six. I'm Manny James Gonzalez, find land for the free and home for the brave.
Welcome back, ballers. Let's get into some news and notes. All right, as the trade deadline passed, Jacoby Myers was traded to the Seattle Seahawks. Not sure how that's going to go, but don't expect too much this week. Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray will be placed on IR. And quarterback Davis Mills is scheduled to start in Week 10 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, with quarterback CJ Stroud out with a concussion. And Houston Texans kicker Ka'imi Fairbairn is not expected. Ka'imi Fairbairn is not expected to play in Week 10 against the Jags as well. Wide receivers Cooper Kupp, Brian Thomas Jr., Michael Pittman Jr., Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, Kayshon Boutte, all of them did not practice today, so keep an eye on those injuries. And at running back, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, James Cook, Bucky Irving, Rico Dowdle, Ramondre Stevenson also did not practice today. They might just be minor injuries, it could be rest days, but keep an eye on all those guys going into Week 10. Now let's talk trade targets. Now I've mentioned this guy as a trade target before, but I think after 2 down weeks in a row, you should go after Jordan Addison. In Week 8, he had 4 targets for 3 catches and 26 yards, and the only reason he finished with 11.6 fantasy points is because he scored a touchdown. Last week, he had 4 targets for 2 catches and 48 yards, finishing with 8.4 fantasy points. Again, that's 2 bad weeks in a row for Addison. The next 2 weeks, he has Baltimore and Chicago, who are outside of the top 25 for pass defense. In weeks 12 and 13, Minnesota plays Green Bay and Seattle, which will be a little harder, but nothing to be concerned with. And in week 14, 15, and 16, they play Washington, Dallas, and the New York Giants, who are also outside of the top 25 for pass defense, setting you up very well for the playoffs in your league. Now, the next player I want to talk about is another wide receiver, Rome Odunze. The last 3 out of 4 weeks for Odunze have been bad, and that's the first thing you need to focus on to make this trade happen. Compare Odunze to Jameson Williams, a boomer bust wide receiver that's a dice roll every week. And the second thing you need to focus on is the schedule for the Bears. This week they play the Giants, which should be a huge game for Odunze, but the end of the season and fantasy playoffs present some difficult matchups. Week 11 they play the Vikings, a top 10 pass defense. They play the Steelers in Week 12, which is actually a really good matchup, so don't talk about that. But then Week 13, they play the Eagles, who are middle of the pack against the pass, but have allowed only 8 passing touchdowns to wide receivers, which is really good. And Week 14, they have Green Bay, a top 10 passing defense, top 5 defense overall. Week 15, they have the Browns, a top 5 passing defense, top 3 defense overall. And Week 16, they have Green Bay again. Maybe the schedule is enough for you to just shy away from making that trade for Odunze, but I still believe he's the wide receiver 1 in Chicago, despite only having one solid game over the last month. And if Caleb Williams can be consistent, Odunze will get back on track too. I'm not really worried about it. The first 4 weeks of the season, he was averaging 20 fantasy points per game. Over the last 4, he's averaging 7 points a game. So that's what you need to focus on to make the trade, the last 4 weeks. Now, peaks and valleys can be common for wide receivers, but again, I believe Odunze will get back to peak form if Caleb Williams continues playing well. Now let's get into our hot matchups. For my first hot matchup, I have the Giants versus the Bears. The Bears defense is ranked 26th in the league. The Giants defense is ranked 29th. They are both absolutely terrible against the pass and the run, and the offense for both teams has been on fire. You can't really ask for a better recipe for fantasy football. There will be a lot of points scored, and I think it's going to be the highest scoring game this week. Jackson Dart is going to be lighting up the Bears with his arm and his legs. He's a must start this week, even without their top 2 weapons, Cam Scatterboo and Malik Neighbors. I like Wandale a lot this week, and Darius Slayton could be a decent bye week fill-in. If you're in a pinch at tight end, I actually think Theo Johnson will have a good day too. With all that said, I would keep the Giants running backs on the bench this week. There might even be better options on the waiver wire. I really can't trust either one of them. Either one of the backups, of course. Now for the Bears, I'm starting Caleb Williams in one league, and I believe this is a great matchup for him to continue putting up big numbers. Although DJ Moore and Rome Odunze have been very hit or miss this year, I think this is a great game to start both of them. Are they risky plays? A little bit, but it's a risk I would take. And Zacchaeus could even have another respectable day too. So if you're in a pinch, plug him in if you really need somebody at flex or wide receiver 3. I wouldn't expect as much as DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, but this is going to be a high-scoring game. If DeAndre Swift is good to go, I'm definitely starting him, and I would play Monongai even if Swift is the lead back this week, because he will get enough touches for a flex play, and this is a tasty matchup. Tight end Colston Loveland had a monster game last week, but I would only play him if you're really hurting at tight end because I think Cole Kmet is coming back this week. Now my second hot matchup is the Ravens versus the Vikings. The Vikings D has been good this year, and the Ravens D is healthy again and has stepped up over the last few weeks, but I think the offense for both teams will outweigh the defense. The Ravens are hungry. Lamar and Derrick Henry are lineup locks. Zay Flowers has a high enough floor that he should be in your lineup too. Last week, Mark Andrews had just 2 catches for 22 yards, but both of those were actually touchdowns. Start him if you're desperate, but he is touchdown dependent. With that said, he's probably Lamar's favorite end zone target. I doubt anyone is starting J.J. McCarthy, but I do expect him to finish strong this year. Start Jefferson and Addison with confidence, but keep an eye on the running back situation for Minnesota because it all depends on whether or not Aaron Jones is ready to go. If Jones plays, he should be in your lineup and Jordan Mason should be on your bench. I would not start Mason if Jones is playing this week. Now let's get into our cold calls this week. For my first cold call, I have the Browns versus the Jets. The Browns defense is going to eat this weekend against the Jets. They have been incredible all year, and the Jets have been struggling all year. Whether it's the pass or the run, the Browns will bring you down, baby. They will bring you down to Chinatown. Breece Hall finally found the end zone last week, and he found it twice, but this week will be more difficult. You see, last week he played the worst defense in the NFL, and this week he plays the best defense in the NFL. He's had 4 good games this year and 4 bad games this year. I have a feeling this is going to be another bad one. Start him, but lower your expectations, and I'm guessing he'll give you about 10 or 15 points. If Garrett Wilson plays, this is going to be a tough return to the field. The Browns are so mean against the pass, and Wilson won't be 100%. The volume is enough to warrant a start, absolutely, but again, lower your expectations and hope for 15 points. Start Mason Taylor if you're desperate at tight end, but I wouldn't. He's had 3 good games, but they were against Miami, Dallas, and Cincinnati. This week will probably be a dud. For the Browns, start Judkins because he appears to be healthy and ready to go after the bye week. His shoulder's all right, and he's been a full participant at practice. And it appears you can start Harold Fannin Jr. and David Njoku because the Browns have no wide receivers. A few weeks ago, I said Fannin is a risky start if Njoku is playing, but I was wrong. When there's no wide receivers, both tight ends will get enough targets. With that said, the Jets' pass defense is actually pretty good, so the Browns may lean heavily on the run. I like Judkins a lot this week, and I think Fannin will give you a safe floor, but I don't see this being a high-scoring game at all. So, with dismal numbers all around, the Browns are 2-6 and the Jets are 1-7. You just can't expect a high-scoring game. And if you haven't dropped Jerry Jeudy, stop lying to yourself and drop him. Now for my second cold call, I've got the Jaguars versus the Texans. I expect this game to be very similar to the Browns and the Jets game. Between Houston and Cleveland, I'm not sure which defense has been better. The Jags have some issues on offense. Travis Hunter finally showcased his talent, and then he gets injured and is out for at least the next 4 weeks. Brian Thomas Jr. is not living up to his expectations, averaging 10.7 fantasy points per game, and he's banged up too. The Jags just acquired Jacoby Myers, but don't expect him to do anything substantial this week if he actually sees the field. Travis Etienne had a decent start to the season, but his ceiling isn't very high. He's averaging 13.5 fantasy points per game, which is fine, but he's more of a flex than an RB2. And despite Trevor Lawrence looking much better over the last month, he's certainly not a guy you want to start, even on a bye week. And again, on top of all those issues I just mentioned, they play the Houston Texans this week. We know the Texans' defense is mean as hell, but what about their offense? Well, their offense sucks, and CJ Stroud is out this week, and it looks like Davis Mills will be their starting quarterback. Nico Collins has been struggling and is coming back from a concussion, with Davis Mills throwing the ball to him. Not ideal. Even against a weak Jacksonville secondary, it's just not ideal. It's a dice roll for the rest of the Houston wide receivers too. You just don't know who's going to show up, especially with Mills at quarterback. And for the run game, Woody Marks might get you 20 points, or he might get you 2 points. The Jags are a top 3 run defense, so I would keep him on your bench unless you have no better option. And Dalton Schultz could be a bye week fill-in at tight end, but he's a risky play every week. Now let's get into my shit call. A few weeks ago, I encouraged you guys to pick up Taysom Hill and stash him on your bench because the Saints' run game appeared to be falling apart. But even with Kendre Miller out for the season and Kamara performing very badly, it just looks like the team is beyond repair. There's really nothing you can do to make that offense good. Taysom isn't getting the touches. The team sucks. They need an overhaul from top to bottom. Just stay away. Well, ballers, that's going to do it for this week. I appreciate you all tuning in. Going to fire off a couple player profiles this weekend too. Going to focus on the Colts wide receivers. And if there's anything else you want to see, just throw a comment under the player profile or on this video or any of our other videos. Any questions you have, we'll try to answer them. I'm not as active as Manny on the other social media accounts, but I will respond on YouTube. All right.